Well, what is an acceptable failure rate for modern engines in modern manufacturing, like what you see here in this GMC Yukon? We're going to get to that in a minute. In addition to that, I'm going to tell you why I think actually waiting for the 2027s, the new engines that are coming out, I think they're going to be more reliable and have better lifters, more long-term reliability than what we see in these. I'm going to tell you why. But before we do that, I had to show you guys this. I saw this poor guy in this Tundra. He just bought the Tundra. It's got temporary tags on it. He's at the boat ramp. I was just pulling my tracker out here. You could see my Ram in this photo. He was cracking me up. He said, yeah, we normally have boat problems, but this time it was the Tundra. And I thought it was the main bearing failure, but he said it was just the serpentine belt failed. So I'll say some prayers for this guy. All right, so to set the tone, don't buy these. This guy has this Yukon. He said, well, it's official, 52,140 miles. Another 6.2 is toast. He had no notice. Interesting with this one, kind of like what we've seen as a theme here with GM lately. They go into the dealership for the recall. So at 48,711 miles on September 2025, he's had about 3,429 miles since he went in. They switched him to 0W40 oil. So for those that aren't familiar, you go into the dealer, they either give you 0W40 oil or they give you a new engine if you've got these 6.2 liters. A lot of people that go in get the 0W40 and it just limps them along, and then they have to wait for an engine on back order. So once again, here's another example of this happening. If there's any question that these engines are, really having a much higher failure rate than anyone ever expected, I think that question is answered. But that leads us to really what I wanted this video to be about, which is the new lifter design in GM's upcoming engines. So if you're thinking about getting in one of these, I would say absolutely wait. Wait till the summer or the fall or even early next year. I would actually, this is the first time I'm ever going to say this, I would actually trust GM's new engines that are coming out more than what you see in their current rigs, at least for the V8s. And if you guys want more validation, you can go to my website, thecarguyonline.com. Here's another 2026 Silverado on April 5th. 2026 Silverado 1500, 3,134 miles blown engine. I mean, they just keep rolling in every week. It is wild. So I'm not going to go in depth of how dynamic fuel management works, or AFM. So AFM was the first version GM came out with that had some problems. DFM is the most recent version, dynamic fuel management. All of the cylinders have lifters like what you see on the far side over there. What you should see is something like these lifters. So they don't tend to have problems, they don't collapse, and you can't really just fix this with an OBD tuner. A lot of people think you can just turn this off. You can, but it doesn't actually fix the hardware problem in the lifters. Fast forward to now, GM's most recent engines that are about to be released here in 2027, they're getting rid of this and they're putting normal lifters in these trucks again. I think this is going to be huge, and I think the way that they're going to do it is much better. They're still keeping DFM, but it's more like what you see from Ford. And I'll show you why really quick, why I think this is going to be more reliable and easier for us to turn off, hopefully even electronically, and not have to replace lifters ever again on the new GM motors. All right, so imagine this is an old General Motors engine, and right down here, this is where like 158 and 160 in the middle of the engine, that's where these old lifters would go. And when they went bad or there was a problem, the cam is directly in the middle, pointing at 130 there. And when those lifters went bad, you're basically tasked with pulling the heads off the engine. You got to pull the whole top end of the engine off, pull the heads off, redo everything, remove the solenoids, put in new lifters. It's a huge job to fix this problem. Not so much in the new one. So on gmauthority.com, I will link to this in the description if you really want to go read the nitty-gritty about it. Basically, what they're going to do is they're going to deactivate and activate the rocker shaft. So that's way up there towards maybe 140 if you're looking on that diagram there, or 138. So way up in the top of the engine is actually where they're going to turn these cylinders on and off based on the rocker design. That's very similar to what Ford does in their 5-liter. And it tends to be, just less prone to issues. And I honestly think that the reason they put it there is because I think this will be electronically tunable, where you can shut this off with a flash. And I think we're going to be able to just turn DFM off, not ever have to worry about replacing the lifters again. So if GM can actually build a V8 that doesn't spin main bearings, that we can shut off DFM, I might actually consider one again. Maybe, if they can fix their 10-speed. Now, one caveat here, GM Authority actually says that it's possible that the system will be implemented in the new Gen 6 that's in, 2027, 2028, the new small blocks that are coming out. So I guess there's still a chance that we don't know if this is going in them. But I can't imagine that they're making this big of a deal about these new engines coming out and they wouldn't have a fix to the DFM issues. I mean, they're getting sued all over the place for this stuff. You would think they would want to fix it. I still don't think this is like a silver bullet fix. It does look like kind of complicated the way they design the hydraulic pressure, and it's basically in the rocker arm, so the hydraulic pressure feeds the rocker arm, and if there's hydraulic pressure going to it, it will disengage that rocker arm. So there's a lot of things in the system, I suppose, that later on could break down, just like we found with the lifters. But I think just the fact that it's mounted towards the top of the engine makes it way more deletable. And the fact that I would imagine it's going to be electronically activated. So then hopefully it has to be commanded on. So if it's never commanded on, which means that I would imagine we can have, like the DFM disablers you have now that plug into the OBD port or a new flash for your system. Eventually there's going to be ways to mitigate this and just completely turn it off electronically. That's what I think is going to happen. And I think they kind of did this on purpose so that they could give the EPA what they wanted and maybe give users what they wanted. That's what I'm hopeful for. Maybe. I could be wrong. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments. Would you buy a GM V8 if you knew it was easily deletable? Like if you could defeat that DFM and have one of their, I guess they're going to be 6.6 liter and a 5.7 liter. If you had really high horsepower, high torque V8s, you could delete the DFM and all you really had to worry about was the transmission. At that point, would that make you consider a GM again? I don't know. Maybe it would me. Some other YouTubers are going to jump on these to see how they are. So hopefully we'll get some guinea pigs out there and see how these engines perform. And look, it can't be, I don't think it can be any worse than what we see here. So going back to the first part of the video when I talked about modern manufacturing, if you look up modern manufacturing and what an acceptable rate of failure is, I think you're going to find generally between 0.02 and 0.2% failure rate in engines in modern manufacturing. What GM is seeing with these 6.2 liters is something like 3% failure rate right now. Here's another 2026 coming in on April 5th. Trust me, do not buy these engines. Do not buy these vehicles. This person has a 2026 Tahoe 6.2, 9,640 miles, another dead engine. I guess the 2027 engines from GM, there's no guarantee that this problem is going to be fixed because these are crankshaft and crank bearing issues. So who knows, maybe the problem really won't be fixed in the end. But I guess if you get a good one, at least you don't have to worry about lifters. And how about on the GMC Sierra side? Just since last week, April 6th, 2026, GMC Sierra complete engine failure at 1,838 miles. Estimated time unknown for replacement parts. These things are on back order. They can't even keep up. And just as a reminder, this goes for the used market as well. Please don't buy one of these used because it's probably going to be either out of warranty or close to it or whatever. Here's another one, April 6th, a 2025 GMC Yukon XL, driving 79 miles an hour, total engine seizure. Look, you're going to buy one of these and it's going to look good on the lot. They're going to dress it up. You might even think you're getting a good deal. This is what you will probably end up with though. Is just heartache and hassle and a rental and then a second engine that's going to fail. And then you'll be trying to get out of it and you'll be having all this negative equity. You'll lose money. It's a known quantity at this point. I would not buy the old engines, the old ones, meaning what they're selling now all the way up to 2026. You can go through my website, thecarguyonline.com, and you can find complaint after complaint after complaint. It is wild that anyone's still buying these. And they have at least, I think, a 3% failure rate, which is insane for modern manufacturing. If I see one more person in the comments say that this is normal for modern manufacturing, I'm going to lose my mind. Go read about modern manufacturing acceptable failure rates. It is nowhere near what we see with GM right now. And not only could it be a hassle, you could actually get injured, you could actually get in a wreck, you could die. I'm surprised that people accept this level of incompetence from such a big company. This person did have a crash. So in June of 2025, they went in, had the Pico test done, got the higher viscosity oil, and then got their truck back, and it failed 2 weeks later anyway with a dead engine. And they ended up getting in an accident and having an injury. And they said GM wouldn't honor the warranty. They must have been over the mileage. I don't know. It's just wild. So if you need any more convincing not to buy a used GM or even a new one right now, just head over to that website and check out the complaints. That'll convince you pretty quick. Other than that, what do you guys think about the 2027s? Do you think GM's going to right the ship? I think GM has no choice but to right the ship. If they don't get these engines right, if they don't knock it out of the park and make old reliable V8s like they used to, I think they're going to lose a lot of loyalty. You're already seeing people jump to Ram, Ford, Toyota, and Toyota still has engine problems, but nothing like GM. I think they're going to continue to lose market share if they keep doing this. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.